Picture this, a civilization so advanced, their inventions still leave modern scientists scratching their heads. While the rest of the world was figuring out basic tools, ancient Egyptians were perfecting technologies we'd consider revolutionary even today. From precision-cut pyramids aligned with cosmic perfection to medical procedures that predate modern surgery by thousands of years, these weren't just innovations, they were leaps into the future. What if I told you your smartphone, your morning toothpaste, even the locks on your front door all trace their roots back to Nile Valley genius? Over the next few minutes, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 ancient Egyptian breakthroughs that will make you question everything you thought you knew about history. Some discoveries are so ahead of their time, experts still debate how they were possible with the tools available. Others were so effective, we've been using their basic designs for millennia without improvement. Whether it's their uncanny understanding of human anatomy or their mastery of materials science that defies explanation, one thing's certain, you've never seen ancient technology like this before. Stick around because by the end, you'll be looking at history's greatest civilization in a whole new light. Now let's take a closer look at the first marvel on our list, the Great Pyramid's precision engineering. This isn't just a pile of stones, it's a masterpiece of mathematical and astronomical brilliance. The pyramid's base is aligned with true north with an accuracy that baffles modern engineers, deviating by less than a fraction of a degree. How did they achieve such precision without the tools we have today? Experts believe the ancient Egyptians used the stars, particularly the circumpolar constellation Ursa Minor, to guide their alignment. But the genius doesn't stop there. Each limestone block was cut with such exactness that you can't even slide a credit card between them. Theories suggest they used copper chisels, wooden mallets, and possibly even primitive leveling instruments filled with water to ensure flawless flat surfaces. Some researchers argue they might have employed a system of ramps and sledges to move these massive stones, but the truth is we're still piecing together the puzzle. What's undeniable is that this level of craftsmanship wasn't just ahead of its time, it set a standard that even today's technology struggles to match. But the mysteries of the Great Pyramid don't end with its flawless exterior. Step inside and you'll find a labyrinth of hidden chambers that continue to puzzle archaeologists. One of the most intriguing discoveries in recent years is the so-called Big Void, a massive empty space located above the Grand Gallery. Detected using advanced scanning technology, this hidden chamber stretches nearly 100 feet long, yet no one knows exactly why it exists. Some researchers believe it could have served as a counterweight system, helping to distribute the pyramid's immense weight during construction. Others speculate it might have held sacred relics or even functioned as a secret ritual space for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. Then there's the enigmatic Queen's Chamber with its mysterious air shafts that don't actually lead outside. Were these channels designed for ventilation, or did they have a deeper symbolic purpose, perhaps aligning with celestial bodies to guide the pharaoh's spirit? Every new scan and excavation seems to raise more questions than answers. What's clear is that these hidden spaces weren't just architectural quirks. They were deliberate, sophisticated features that hint at a level of planning and purpose we're only beginning to understand. Now, let's shift our focus from the towering pyramids to something just as monumental, the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system. Far more than simple pictures carved into stone, hieroglyphs were a sophisticated blend of art, language, and record-keeping that shaped one of history's most advanced civilizations. Imagine a script where symbols could represent sounds, whole words, or even abstract ideas, all woven together in a visual tapestry. This system wasn't just for royal decrees or temple walls. It was the backbone of administration, tracking everything from grain supplies to military campaigns with precision. The story of how we cracked this code is just as fascinating. For centuries, hieroglyphs remained a mystery, their meaning lost to time until the discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799. This slab of black basalt, inscribed with the same text in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs, became the key to unlocking Egypt's written legacy. Thanks to the tireless work of scholars like Jean-François Champollion, by the 1820s, the symbols finally began to speak again, revealing secrets buried for millennia. But the influence of hieroglyphs didn't stop at Egypt's borders. Scholars now see echoes of this system in later alphabets, from the Phoenician script to the Greek and Latin letters we use today. Every time you write an email or read a book, you're tapping into a legacy that traces back in part to those intricate carvings along the Nile. Hieroglyphs weren't just a way to record history, they helped shape the very tools we use to communicate across the ages. While hieroglyphs preserved Egypt's history, they also safeguarded something even more extraordinary: their medical wisdom. Among the most remarkable discoveries are the Edwin Smith and Ebers papyri, ancient texts that reveal just how advanced Egyptian medicine truly was. These documents, written over 3,500 years ago, read like modern medical textbooks, filled with precise diagnoses, surgical procedures, and even prescriptions for herbal remedies. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, for instance, is the world's oldest surviving surgical text. It meticulously describes 48 cases of injuries, fractures, and wounds, each with a clear examination, diagnosis, and treatment plan. What's astounding is how scientific their approach was. They categorized injuries as treatable, uncertain, or untreatable, a system eerily similar to triage methods used today. Some passages even detail stitching wounds with linen thread and using honey as a natural antiseptic, techniques still praised for their effectiveness. Then there's the Ebers Papyrus, a sprawling compilation of over 700 remedies covering everything from digestive ailments to mental health. Egyptians treated asthma with herbs like frankincense, eased pain with willow bark, a natural precursor to aspirin, and even recognized the heart's role in circulating blood, a concept Western medicine wouldn't grasp for millennia. They blended science with spirituality, believing illness could stem from both physical and supernatural causes, yet their treatments were often startlingly practical. What makes these papyri truly groundbreaking is their evidence-based approach. Unlike later civilizations that relied heavily on superstition, Egyptian physicians documented outcomes, adjusted treatments, and passed down knowledge through generations. Their work laid foundations for anatomy, pharmacology, and even dentistry, proof that ancient medicine wasn't just trial and error, but a disciplined, evolving science. As we marvel at these texts, it's humbling to realize how much of our modern medicine echoes ideas born along the Nile. Next time you take an aspirin or admire a surgeon's skill, remember, the roots of those innovations might just trace back to a scribe's careful hand, inking prescriptions on papyrus under the desert sun. Now, let's turn our attention to another ingenious invention, one that measured time not with sand or shadows, but with the steady flow of water. The ancient Egyptian water clock, or clepsydra, was a marvel of engineering that kept the hours ticking long after sunset. Moving from the precision of medical texts to the ingenuity of timekeeping, the ancient Egyptians also mastered the art of measuring hours even in the dead of night. Enter the water clock, or clepsydra, a brilliant invention that turned the steady drip of water into a reliable timer. Unlike sundials, which were useless after dark, this device kept track of time around the clock, proving just how ahead of their era these innovators were. Picture a stone or pottery vessel filled with water, marked with carefully spaced lines inside. As water slowly drained through a tiny hole at the base, the dropping level would align with those markings, each representing a specific hour. Priests in temples relied on it to time rituals after sunset, while astronomers used it to chart the stars' movements with surprising accuracy. The design was so effective that some clepsydras even accounted for seasonal changes in water flow rates, adjusting for shorter or longer nights. What's fascinating is how this ancient concept mirrors modern timekeeping. Today's clocks may use gears or quartz crystals instead of water, but the core idea remains the same, measuring consistent, predictable motion to track time. The clepsydra's legacy lives on in everything from hourglasses to the precise timers in our smartphones. Next time you glance at your digital clock, remember, the heartbeat of timekeeping began with a simple vessel and the patience of Egyptian minds who refused to let darkness stop their pursuit of precision. And speaking of precision, let's shift gears to another game-changing invention, one that turned the Nile's life-giving waters into the backbone of Egypt's agricultural success. Now, let's turn our attention from timekeeping to another stroke of Egyptian brilliance, one that transformed the arid landscape into a breadbasket. The Shaduf, a simple yet revolutionary lever-based irrigation tool, became the lifeline of ancient Egyptian agriculture. Imagine a long wooden pole balanced on a crossbeam with a bucket on one end and a counterweight on the other. Farmers could effortlessly scoop water from the Nile and swing it into their fields with minimal effort, a game changer in a land where every drop of water meant survival. This ingenious device didn't just save labor, it multiplied it. Before the Shaduf, farmers relied on backbreaking methods like carrying water in jars or digging canals by hand. But with this tool, a single worker could irrigate far more land in less time, turning previously barren plots into fertile fields. The result, a dramatic surge in food production, which fueled population growth and stabilized society. Villages flourished along the Nile, and surplus crops even became a cornerstone of trade with neighboring regions. What's remarkable is how the Shaduf's design echoes principles still used today. Modern irrigation systems may use pumps and pipes, but the core idea of leveraging mechanical advantage to move water efficiently started here. The Egyptians didn't just solve a problem, they laid the groundwork for agricultural advancements that would span millennia. So the next time you see a sprinkler system watering a field, tip your hat to the Shaduf. It's a testament to how ancient innovation didn't just meet the needs of its time, it planted the seeds for the future. And speaking of growth, let's dig into another Egyptian marvel that changed the way the world recorded knowledge. Moving from the fields to the workshops, let's unravel another Egyptian breakthrough that reshaped how civilizations communicated: papyrus paper. Picture this: instead of heavy clay tablets or fragile animal skins, the Egyptians crafted smooth, lightweight sheets from the humble papyrus plant, a reed that thrived along the Nile. This wasn't just paper, it was a revolution in record-keeping, literature, and even diplomacy. The process was as ingenious as the product itself. Workers would slice the pithy stems of the papyrus plant into thin strips, then layer them horizontally and vertically, crisscrossing them like a woven mat. These layers were pressed together, and the natural sap of the plant acted as a glue, bonding the strips into a single, durable sheet. After drying in the sun, the result was a surface so smooth it could be written on with ink, rolled into scrolls, or even reused by scraping off old text. What made papyrus a game-changer was its versatility. Unlike bulky clay tablets that cracked or heavy parchment that required extensive preparation, papyrus was lightweight, portable, and relatively cheap to produce. It became the backbone of Egyptian bureaucracy. Tax records, legal decrees, and royal proclamations were all inscribed on these sheets, but its influence didn't stop at administration. Literary masterpieces like the Tale of the Shipwrecked Sailor and medical texts like the Ebers Papyrus were preserved on this medium, sharing knowledge across generations. Beyond Egypt's borders, papyrus became a hot commodity. Traders carried it across the Mediterranean, where Greeks, Romans, and other cultures adopted it eagerly. For centuries, it was the dominant writing material of the ancient world, a status it held until parchment and later paper began to replace it. Yet even today, the word paper owes its origin to papyrus, a nod to its enduring legacy. So the next time you jot down a note or flip through a book, remember the papyrus plant. It wasn't just a writing surface, it was the ancient internet, connecting ideas and empires long before the digital age. And speaking of connections, let's explore how the Egyptians didn't just write history, they sailed into it with their advanced shipbuilding techniques. Now, let's set sail into another marvel of ancient Egyptian engineering, their advanced shipbuilding. While many ancient cultures relied on simple rafts or hollowed-out logs, the Egyptians crafted vessels so sophisticated they could navigate both the Nile and the open sea with remarkable precision. Take the Khufu ship, for example. Discovered buried near the Great Pyramid, this 43-meter-long masterpiece wasn't just a ceremonial relic, it was a testament to their shipwright's genius. What made these ships so groundbreaking? It all came down to their construction. Instead of nails, which could rust or weaken the wood, Egyptian builders used intricate joinery techniques, fitting planks together with meticulously carved wooden pegs and ropes. This method, known as lash and tenon, created flexible yet sturdy hulls capable of withstanding rough waters. The planks themselves were often imported cedar from Lebanon, prized for its durability and resistance to rot, proof that the Egyptians were thinking long-term. But these ships weren't just feats of engineering, they were lifelines of the empire. On the Nile, they transported grain, stone, and goods between cities, fueling Egypt's economy. Along the coast, they ventured into the Red Sea for trade expeditions to far-off lands like Punt, bringing back exotic treasures like incense, gold, and ebony. And in the spiritual realm, they played a starring role in religious ceremonies, symbolizing the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The Khufu ship, for instance, was likely intended to carry the king's soul across the celestial waters. What's even more impressive is how these vessels were designed for their specific roles. Nile ships had flat bottoms to navigate shallow waters, while seafaring ships featured deeper hulls and sturdy sails to brave the waves. Some even had cabins for crew and cargo, showing an early understanding of ergonomics and logistics. So while the pyramids may steal the spotlight, Egypt's ships were just as revolutionary. They connected continents, fueled empires, and even bridged the gap between life and the divine. And speaking of navigation, let's steer toward the stars next, because the Egyptians didn't just build ships, they charted their course with celestial precision. Now, let's take a closer look at how these incredible ships found their way across vast waters. The ancient Egyptians didn't just rely on sturdy hulls, they mastered the art of navigation with techniques that were centuries ahead of their time. Picture this: under a sky glittering with stars, sailors used constellations like the Big Dipper and Orion as their celestial roadmaps. By tracking the positions of these stars, they could determine direction and even estimate distances, turning the night sky into a natural GPS. But stars weren't their only guide. Along the Nile, landmarks like distinctive rock formations or temple towers served as reliable reference points, helping captains stay on course in the river's winding channels. For longer voyages into the Red Sea, they likely relied on early versions of nautical charts, mental or even sketched maps noting safe harbors, currents, and hazards. Some historians believe they may have used simple instruments like sighting rods to measure the angle of the sun or stars, refining their sense of direction. What's truly remarkable is how these methods laid the groundwork for future explorers. The Egyptians weren't just sailing blindly, they were collecting and passing down knowledge that would later influence Greek, Phoenician, and even Arab navigators. Their understanding of seasonal winds, for example, allowed them to time their voyages to harness favorable breezes, a tactic still used in traditional sailing today. And let's not forget the practical side. By observing bird migrations or the color of the water, sailors could predict weather changes or spot nearby land. These small but crucial details turned navigation into both a science and an art, proving once again that the Egyptians didn't just build ships, they mastered the seas. With such precision guiding their journeys, it's no wonder their influence stretched far beyond the Nile. But their innovations didn't stop at the water's edge. Next, we'll uncover how they secured their treasures with their inventions still guarding our homes today. Moving from the mastery of the seas to the security of their homes, the ancient Egyptians also pioneered a device that still protects our valuables today, the pin tumbler door lock. Imagine a world where securing your belongings meant more than just barring a door. The Egyptians invented the earliest known pin tumbler locks around 4,000 years ago, and their design was so ingenious that modern locks still follow the same basic principles. Here's how it worked. The lock consisted of a wooden bolt fixed to the door, with vertical pins dropping into holes to hold it in place. The key, often a large wooden stick with pegs matching the pins, would lift them to the correct height, allowing the bolt to slide open. It was a simple yet brilliant system, one that required precise craftsmanship to ensure only the right key could unlock it. But these locks weren't just about practicality. They held cultural significance too. In a society where temples and tombs housed priceless treasures, security was sacred. Locks symbolized order and protection, reflecting the Egyptians' belief in safeguarding both their earthly possessions and their journey into the afterlife. Some keys were even shaped like sacred symbols, blending function with spirituality. What's truly remarkable is how little the core mechanism has changed over millennia. Today's metal pin tumbler locks found in homes worldwide operate on nearly the same concept. The Egyptians didn't just create a lock, they engineered a solution so effective that it stood the test of time. From securing grain stores to protecting royal chambers, this invention shows yet another way the ancient Egyptians thought ahead. And speaking of protection, their innovations didn't stop at doors. Next, we'll explore how they even safeguarded their eyes with a beauty secret that doubled as science. Now, let's turn our attention to something that blended beauty with brilliance: the ancient Egyptians' use of makeup and cosmetics. Far more than just a fashion statement, their iconic kohl eyeliner and other beauty products served practical, scientific, and even spiritual purposes. The most recognizable cosmetic was kohl, that bold black eyeliner seen in countless depictions of pharaohs and queens. But it wasn't just about looking striking. Kohl, made from crushed minerals like galena and mixed with oils, acted as a natural sunscreen and insect repellent. The dark pigment helped reduce glare from the sun, much like the black streaks modern athletes wear under their eyes. It also had antibacterial properties, protecting against eye infections, a clever fusion of style and health. Cosmetics went beyond eyeliner. Egyptians used red ochre for blush, henna to dye hair and nails, and even created early lipsticks from crushed beetles and carmine. These weren't just vanity products, they reflected social status with higher quality ingredients reserved for the elite. Cleanliness and grooming were tied to morality, as they believed presenting oneself well honored the gods. But the significance ran deeper. Makeup played a role in religion and the afterlife. Deities like Hathor were often depicted with heavily lined eyes, and the dead were buried with cosmetic palettes to ensure they looked their best in the next world. Kohl jars and applicators have been found in tombs, some inscribed with spells for protection. The influence of Egyptian beauty standards stretched far beyond the Nile. Their bold eyeliner trends reappeared in cultures from ancient Greece to modern runways, proving their legacy endures. And while we might think of makeup as purely aesthetic today, the Egyptians remind us that even the smallest details, like a swipe of kohl, could hold layers of meaning. From practicality to piety, their cosmetics reveal yet another way they were ahead of their time. And just as they perfected the art of adornment, they also mastered the science of timekeeping. Next, we'll uncover how they measured hours with flowing water. Moving from beauty to precision, let's explore how the ancient Egyptians mastered the art of time itself with their groundbreaking calendar system. While makeup adorned their bodies, their calendar organized their world, blending astronomy, agriculture, and administration into one seamless innovation. The Egyptians didn't just track days, they synchronized their lives with the cosmos. Their 365-day solar calendar was one of the earliest attempts to align human activity with celestial patterns. Unlike lunar calendars used by other ancient cultures, theirs was based on the sun's cycle, divided into 12 months of 30 days each, plus 5 extra days dedicated to the gods. This structure was so accurate that it became the foundation for the Julian and later Gregorian calendars we use today. But what made their system truly revolutionary was its connection to the Nile. The calendar's start coincided with the annual flooding, a life-giving event that replenished farmlands with nutrient-rich silt. By predicting this flood using the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, which appeared just before the waters rose, Egyptians could plan planting and harvesting with unmatched precision. This wasn't just timekeeping, it was survival. The calendar's influence stretched far beyond agriculture. It streamlined tax collection, religious festivals, and even labor projects like pyramid construction. Priests used it to schedule rituals, while officials relied on it to manage grain storage and distribution. In a society where order was sacred, the calendar became the heartbeat of civilization. And let's not forget its global legacy. The Romans admired it so much they adapted it, and its basic framework still governs modern timekeeping. The Egyptians didn't just measure days, they gave the world a tool to organize history itself. From the rhythm of the Nile to the motion of the stars, their calendar was a testament to their genius. And just as they mapped the year, they also mapped the body next. We'll uncover their astonishing advances in medicine and surgery. Shifting from the precision of timekeeping to the brilliance of craftsmanship, the ancient Egyptians also dazzled the world with their mastery of glassmaking. Long before glass became a common material, they were crafting stunning beads, vessels, and decorative objects that showcased both scientific ingenuity and artistic flair. Their process was nothing short of revolutionary. Using a mix of silica from crushed quartz, natron from dried lake beds, and mineral-based pigments, they created vibrant colored glass at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. This required not just skill but an advanced understanding of chemistry, knowing exactly how copper could produce blues and greens, or how manganese could create deep purples. The result, glass that shimmered like precious stones, often used to imitate lapis lazuli or turquoise in jewelry and royal ornaments, but their innovation didn't stop at color. Egyptians pioneered core forming, a technique where molten glass was wrapped around a clay or sand core, then shaped into intricate bottles, amulets, and even inlays for furniture. Some of the earliest examples, like the cobalt blue beads found in tombs from around 2500 BC, still retain their vivid hues today, proof of their enduring craftsmanship. Glassmaking wasn't just an art, it was a symbol of status and divine connection. Pharaohs gifted glass vessels to foreign rulers, while temple walls glittered with glass inlays depicting gods and cosmic motifs. Even in death, the elite were buried with glass amulets to protect them in the afterlife. What's truly remarkable is how their techniques spread. By the New Kingdom, Egypt's glass workshops influenced cultures across the Mediterranean, laying the groundwork for later Roman and Venetian glass industries. So next time you admire a piece of colored glass, remember, its origins trace back to the fiery furnaces of ancient Egypt. And speaking of artistry with a purpose, our next discovery takes us from the beauty of glass to the practicality of early prosthetics where function met compassion in surprising ways. Now, let's step into a fascinating blend of medicine and craftsmanship, where ancient Egyptians didn't just heal the body but restored it. Among their most astonishing innovations were prosthetic limbs, designed not just for appearance but for real, practical use. Take the Cairo toe, for example, discovered on a mummy dating back to around 1000 BC. This wooden toe isn't just a symbolic attachment, it's a carefully engineered piece with movable joints and even straps for secure fitting. Wear marks suggest it was used during the person's lifetime, helping them walk more comfortably. But the Cairo toe isn't alone. Another prosthetic, a 3-part wooden big toe found on a woman's mummy, shows signs of repeated adjustments, almost like an ancient version of custom orthotics. These weren't just cobbled together, they were tailored to the wearer's body, reflecting an intimate understanding of balance, pressure points, and movement. What's even more striking is the materials they chose. Some prosthetics used lightweight wood or leather, while others combined linen and plaster for a snug fit. One particularly advanced example, a prosthetic toe made from cartonnage, a mix of linen, glue, and plaster, even had a realistic toenail carved into it. This attention to detail reveals something profound. Egyptians saw prosthetics as both functional tools and extensions of the body's natural form. Beyond practicality, these devices carried deep cultural meaning. In a society that believed the physical body was essential for the afterlife, restoring a lost limb wasn't just about mobility, it was about wholeness in eternity. Some prosthetics were even buried separately, perhaps as ritual offerings or backups for the soul's journey. Modern experts have tested these ancient designs with surprising results. Replicas of the Cairo toe, when worn by volunteers, proved remarkably effective for walking in sandals, the very footwear Egyptians commonly used. It's a testament to how their innovations weren't just ahead of their time, but rooted in real-world problem-solving. From glassmaking to prosthetics, the ancient Egyptians blurred the line between art and science, creating solutions that were as compassionate as they were clever. And speaking of blending form with function, our next discovery takes us to something we all use daily: toothpaste. Yes, even dental hygiene had its roots in their brilliance. Now, let's turn our attention to something we all use every day: oral hygiene. Believe it or not, the ancient Egyptians were pioneers in dental care, crafting toothpaste and tools that show just how seriously they took their smiles. Their recipes might sound unusual today, but they were surprisingly effective. Imagine a mixture of crushed eggshells, pumice, and even burnt ox hooves, ground into a fine powder and mixed with water to form a gritty paste. This abrasive blend wasn't just for cleaning. It polished teeth, removed stains, and even freshened breath, proving they understood the basics of dental health long before modern dentistry. But toothpaste was just the beginning. Archaeologists have uncovered dental tools in tombs that reveal even more sophistication. Bronze toothpicks, early floss made from plant fibers, and even rudimentary drills suggest they didn't just clean their teeth, they treated problems. One medical papyrus details remedies for toothaches, including honey and herbs to fight infection, showing a grasp of both prevention and treatment. What's fascinating is how these practices were woven into daily life. Wealthier Egyptians might have had personal dentists, while others relied on household recipes passed down through generations. Even mummies show signs of dental work, with some teeth worn down from a lifetime of using these abrasive pastes, proof that their methods were in regular use. Beyond practicality, dental care had cultural weight. A clean mouth was tied to social status and health, and some tombs included tooth cleaning kits for the afterlife. It's a reminder that for the Egyptians, hygiene wasn't just about vanity, it was about vitality, both in this world and the next. From prosthetics to toothpaste, their innovations keep surprising us. And speaking of surprises, our next discovery takes us to the construction site where a simple tool ensured the pyramids stood perfectly straight. Now, let's shift our focus from personal hygiene to architectural precision, because the ancient Egyptians didn't just care about straight teeth, they were obsessed with straight lines. Enter the plumb bob, a deceptively simple tool that played a starring role in their construction marvels. Picture a weighted stone or metal piece hung from a string. Gravity does the rest, pulling it into a perfect vertical line. This humble device was their secret weapon for ensuring walls, columns, and even the towering pyramids stood flawlessly upright. What's remarkable is how they used it. Workers would suspend the plumb bob beside a stone block or a rising wall, adjusting until the string aligned perfectly with the structure. No lasers, no digital levels, just pure physics and patience. And the results speak for themselves: the Great Pyramid's near-perfect alignment with cardinal directions, the razor-straight edges of temples like Karnak. All thanks to this unassuming tool. But the plumb bob wasn't just about brute accuracy, it reflected their deeper understanding of balance and harmony. In Egyptian cosmology, the concept of mat, order and truth was sacred, and their architecture mirrored this ideal. A crooked wall wasn't just a construction flaw, it was a cosmic offense. The plumb bob, then, was as much a philosophical instrument as a practical one. Even today, modern builders use versions of this ancient tool, proving its timeless utility. So next time you marvel at the pyramid's symmetry, remember, it all started with a dangling weight and a keen eye for the straight and narrow. And speaking of precision, our next innovation takes us from the solid ground of construction to the flowing waters of the Nile, where another clever device transformed an entire civilization's relationship with time. Now, let's step onto the battlefield where ancient Egyptian ingenuity took a deadly turn, with the khopesh, a weapon so distinctive it became a symbol of pharaonic might. At first glance, this curved blade might remind you of a farming sickle, and that's no coincidence. The khopesh actually evolved from agricultural tools, but the Egyptians transformed it into a fearsome weapon that dominated combat for centuries. The design was brutally effective. Unlike straight swords, the khopesh's curved edge allowed warriors to hook an opponent's shield or limbs, delivering devastating slashes or disarming strikes with a single motion. The weight distribution, heavier near the tip, made it perfect for chopping through armor or bone, while the inner curve could even be used for thrusting. It was versatility personified, a testament to Egyptian practicality in warfare. But the khopesh wasn't just about function, it carried deep cultural weight. Pharaohs were often depicted wielding it in art and inscriptions, linking the weapon to divine authority and military prowess. Take the famous relief of Ramesses III at Medinet Habu, where he swings a khopesh against his enemies, immortalizing it as a tool of royal conquest. Even Tutankhamun was buried with two ceremonial khopesh blades, underscoring its status as a symbol of power in life and the afterlife. What's fascinating is how the khopesh's influence outlasted its use. While later civilizations adopted straighter swords, the khopesh's legacy lingered in art and mythology, a reminder of Egypt's martial innovation. Modern historians even debate whether it inspired similar curved blades like the Greek kopis or the Nepalese kukri. From farm tool to battlefield icon, the khopesh captures how the ancient Egyptians turned everyday objects into instruments of empire. And speaking of empire building, our next invention didn't just conquer enemies, it defied gravity itself. Now, let's take a leap from the battlefield to the skies with one of ancient Egypt's most puzzling artifacts, the Saqqara bird. Discovered in a tomb near Saqqara and dating back over 2,000 years, this small wooden figure might look like a simple toy at first glance. But its sleek, aerodynamic design has sparked a heated debate among historians and engineers alike. Could this be evidence that the ancient Egyptians were experimenting with principles of flight? The Saqqara bird's wings are angled in a way that eerily resembles the airfoil shape of modern aircraft wings, designed to generate lift. Some researchers argue that this wasn't just artistic coincidence, it might reflect an early grasp of aerodynamics. In fact, when scaled up and tested in wind tunnels, replicas of the Saqqara bird have shown surprising gliding capabilities, fueling theories that it could have been a model for a larger, functional glider. Of course, skeptics point out that the artifact lacks a tail fin, a crucial component for stable flight. They suggest it might have been a ceremonial object, perhaps a bird-shaped weather vane or even a child's toy. But here's the twist: ancient Egyptian culture was deeply symbolic, and birds often represented spiritual freedom or the soul's journey. Could the Saqqara bird have been a physical representation of that idea, or was it something more technically ambitious? What makes this artifact so fascinating is the possibility that it sits at the intersection of art, science, and symbolism. Whether it was a prototype, a ritual object, or simply a cleverly carved ornament, the Saqqara bird challenges our assumptions about the limits of ancient innovation. And just as this artifact leaves us wondering, our next discovery takes us from the skies to the very foundations of architecture where the Egyptians once again defied expectations. Moving from the mysteries of flight to the solid foundations of construction, let's uncover another groundbreaking innovation: the Egyptians' use of concrete-like materials. Long before the Romans perfected their famous concrete, ancient builders along the Nile were crafting durable structures with gypsum and lime mortars. These materials weren't just simple binders, they were engineered to withstand the test of time, holding together massive stone blocks in pyramids and temples for thousands of years. The secret lay in their meticulous recipes. Gypsum, a soft mineral abundant in Egypt, was heated to high temperatures to create a plaster-like paste. When mixed with water, it hardened into a sturdy material ideal for filling gaps between stones or coating walls. Lime mortar, made by burning limestone, offered even greater strength and water resistance, crucial for structures exposed to the elements. Archaeologists have found traces of these mortars in the Great Pyramid, where they were used to level the massive limestone blocks with astonishing precision. What's truly remarkable is how these early experiments foreshadowed modern construction. The Egyptians even added organic materials like straw or animal hair to reinforce their mixtures, a technique similar to the fibers used in today's concrete. While Roman concrete later became famous for its volcanic ash formula, Egypt's innovations laid the groundwork, literally, for architectural advancements across the ancient world. So, were these mortars as revolutionary as Roman concrete? In some ways, yes. They allowed the Egyptians to build on a scale never before seen, creating monuments that still stand as a testament to their ingenuity. And as we'll soon see, their mastery of materials didn't stop there. Our next discovery takes us to the Nile's edge, where they turned the river's rhythms into a tool for survival. Now let's step to the banks of the Nile, where the ancient Egyptians turned the river's unpredictable floods into a science with an ingenious invention: the nilometer. This simple yet brilliant device was their lifeline, measuring the Nile's water levels to predict whether the year would bring abundance or famine. Picture a stone staircase or a column marked with precise measurements submerged in the river. As the floodwaters rose, priests and officials would record the levels, translating them into forecasts for the coming harvest. A high reading meant fertile soil and plentiful crops, while a low one signaled drought and hardship. But the nilometer wasn't just about agriculture, it was Egypt's earliest tax calculator. The government used these measurements to set grain taxes, ensuring fairness based on the land's productivity. What's fascinating is how this system reveals the Egyptians' grasp of data collection. They didn't just observe nature, they quantified it, creating records that spanned generations. Some nilometers, like the one on Elephantine Island, were housed in ornate temples, blending science with spirituality. The Nile's floods were seen as gifts from the gods, and the nilometer became a sacred tool to interpret their will. In many ways, this ancient device was a precursor to modern meteorology. By tracking patterns over centuries, the Egyptians could anticipate fluctuations, adjusting their farming and economy accordingly. It's a reminder that long before satellites and sensors, humanity was finding clever ways to harness the environment, proof that innovation often begins with the need to survive. And as we'll see next, the Egyptians didn't stop at measuring water, they also mastered the art of moving it, revolutionizing agriculture with yet another ahead of its time tool. Now let's shift our focus from the fields of the Nile to the hands of ancient Egyptian healers, where another remarkable innovation comes to light: their surgical instruments. Far from the crude tools you might expect, these bronze scalpels, forceps, and probes reveal a level of medical sophistication that rivals even some modern practices. Imagine a surgeon's kit from over 4,000 years ago, meticulously crafted from bronze and sometimes even gold. These instruments weren't just ceremonial, they were functional, designed with precision for tasks like stitching wounds, setting bones, and even performing early forms of cataract surgery. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts in history, describes procedures that required such tools, detailing how to treat fractures, tumors, and spinal injuries with astonishing accuracy. What's truly striking is how these instruments reflect a deep understanding of human anatomy. Egyptian physicians didn't just guess, they observed, experimented, and recorded their findings. Forceps were used to remove foreign objects, while scalpels made clean incisions with edges sharp enough to rival modern steel. Some tombs even contained specialized tools for dentistry, like drills for cavities, proving their medical knowledge extended far beyond basic first aid. But perhaps the most surprising detail is how these tools were sterilized. Evidence suggests they used heat and antiseptic substances like honey and salt to prevent infection, a practice that wouldn't become standard elsewhere for millennia. This wasn't just trial and error, it was a system, a methodical approach to healing that blended science with skill. And as we'll soon see, the Egyptians' ingenuity didn't stop at surgery. Their innovations stretched into everyday life in ways that still echo today, proving once again that their brilliance knew no bounds. Moving from the precision of surgical tools to the sheer scale of ancient engineering, let's tackle one of Egypt's most jaw-dropping feats, the transportation of massive obelisks. These towering stone monuments, some weighing as much as 400 tons, weren't just carved with incredible skill. They were moved across vast distances and erected with nothing but human ingenuity and brute strength. Picture this, a single obelisk taller than a 10-story building, being hauled from quarries in Aswan to temples in Luxor or Heliopolis. How did they do it without modern machinery? The answer lies in a combination of clever physics and relentless manpower. Workers would first carve the obelisk directly from bedrock, using dolerite balls to pound the stone until it was free. Then came the real challenge: transport. They'd load the monolith onto a wooden sledge, lubricating the path ahead with water or mud to reduce friction. Teams of laborers, sometimes numbering in the thousands, would pull the sledge along carefully prepared roads. Ramps made of earth and rubble helped navigate inclines, while levers and ropes allowed for minute adjustments. But the most breathtaking moment came during erection. Using a pivot system and a giant sand-filled pit, workers would gradually tilt the obelisk upright, removing sand bit by bit until the stone slid perfectly into place. One misstep could shatter the monument, or worse yet, records show they succeeded again and again. This wasn't just raw power, it was applied mathematics, teamwork, and patience on a scale that still stuns engineers today. And as we'll see next, even their everyday materials held secrets that defy expectations. Now, let's shift our focus from the monumental to the miniature, where artistry and chemistry collide in ancient Egypt's dazzling faience ceramics. Unlike ordinary pottery, faience was a revolutionary material, crafted not from clay but from crushed quartz, mixed with alkaline salts and mineral pigments, then fired to create a glossy, glass-like surface. The result, objects that shimmered in hues of turquoise, cobalt, and lapis lazuli, mimicking precious stones at a fraction of the cost. The process was as ingenious as it was beautiful. Artisans would mold the quartz paste into delicate shapes, beads, amulets, even intricate figurines before heating them in kilns. As the mixture melted, a natural glaze formed, sealing the surface in vibrant color. This wasn't just decoration, the glaze made faience durable and water-resistant, perfect for everyday items like cups, bowls, and tiles, but faience held deeper meaning too. Its luminous blue-green tones symbolized fertility and rebirth, linking it to the Nile's life-giving waters. Scarabs, ankhs, and divine figurines crafted from faience adorned both the living and the dead, believed to carry protective magic into the afterlife. Even household objects doubled as talismans, blending utility with spirituality. What's truly remarkable is how faience predated true glassmaking by centuries, showcasing Egypt's mastery of high-temperature chemistry. From royal jewelry to humble trinkets, this ancient, fake stone proved that innovation wasn't just about scale. Sometimes the smallest creations held the grandest secrets. And as we'll see next, their architectural genius extended even to the arches that shaped their sacred spaces. Now, let's set sail toward one of the most iconic marvels of the ancient world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria. Though it rose during the Hellenistic era, its brilliance was built on centuries of Egyptian engineering mastery. Towering over the island of Pharaohs, this colossal structure wasn't just a beacon for ships, it was a testament to human ingenuity, blending form and function in ways that still inspire awe today. At its heart was a revolutionary mirror system, likely polished bronze or glass, capable of reflecting sunlight by day and fire by night. Imagine the sight, a flame so magnified it could be seen from miles offshore, guiding sailors safely through treacherous waters. Some ancient accounts even claim the mirror's light could scorch enemy ships, though historians debate this fiery detail. What's undeniable is its role as the ancient world's ultimate GPS, saving countless lives and boosting Mediterranean trade. But the lighthouse was more than a tool, it was a symbol. Standing as tall as a 40-story building, its three-tiered design, square base, octagonal middle, and cylindrical top showcased architectural harmony. The white marble facade gleamed like a second sun, earning it a spot among the seven wonders. And while earthquakes eventually toppled it, its legacy endured. The very word pharaohs became the root for lighthouse in languages from French to Spanish, proving how deeply it anchored itself in global culture. What's often overlooked is how Egyptian craftsmanship made it possible. The same stone-moving techniques that built the pyramids likely shaped its foundation, and local artisans perfected the mirror's precision. So next time you flip a light switch, remember, the spark of modern navigation began with a flame atop an Egyptian shore. And speaking of sparks, our final ancient innovation might just shock you, literally. Now, let's turn our attention to a practice that reveals just how deeply the ancient Egyptians intertwined their spiritual beliefs with the natural world: animal mummification. While human mummies often steal the spotlight, the Egyptians devoted astonishing care to preserving creatures they considered sacred, from cats and ibises to crocodiles and even scarab beetles. This wasn't just about reverence, it was a sophisticated science that mirrored their understanding of life, death, and the cosmos. The process began with meticulous preparation. Animals destined for mummification were often raised in temple precincts, treated as living embodiments of gods. After death, their bodies were carefully cleaned, dehydrated with natron salt, the same mineral used for humans, and wrapped in linen strips. But here's where it gets fascinating. Some mummies were given elaborate poses, like cats curled as if sleeping or falcons with wings outstretched, symbolizing their divine roles. X-rays of these mummies reveal everything from tiny shrews to towering bulls, each preserved with precision. Beyond the technique, animal mummification offers a window into ancient ecology. The sheer number of preserved creatures, millions, in some cases hints at thriving wildlife along the Nile. Ibises, linked to Thoth, god of wisdom, were so widely mummified that their nests might have stretched for miles. Meanwhile, the discovery of venomous snakes in tombs suggests a belief in their protective power. Even the occasional fake mummy, stuffed with reeds or feathers, speaks to the high demand for these sacred offerings. Religiously, these mummies bridged the earthly and divine. Egyptians believed animals carried messages to the gods, and their preserved bodies ensured eternal service in the afterlife. Temples became hubs of mass production, with priests overseeing workshops that catered to pilgrims seeking blessings. Today, these mummies remind us that Egypt's genius wasn't just in grand monuments, but in the delicate art of honoring life in all its forms. And as we unravel these ancient bonds between humans and animals, Our next discovery takes us from the sacred to the structural, where Egyptian innovation literally shaped the foundations of architecture. Now, shifting our gaze from the spiritual to the structural, we uncover another marvel of Egyptian engineering, the corbelled arch. This ingenious architectural technique predates the true arch by centuries, yet it showcases the same brilliance in defying gravity. Found in tombs and temples across Egypt, the corbelled arch wasn't just a building block. It was a leap toward the soaring ceilings and grand gateways we admire today. The design was deceptively simple. Instead of a curved keystone, builders stacked layers of stone or brick, each slightly overlapping the one below until they met at the top. Picture a staircase inverted, with each step narrowing the gap until the walls finally kiss. This method allowed Egyptians to create doorways, ceilings, and even underground burial chambers that could bear immense weight without collapsing. The tomb of Pharaoh Djoser at Saqqara, with its labyrinth of corbelled passageways, stands as a testament to its durability. But why does this matter? Because the corbelled arch was a blueprint for the future. While the Romans later perfected the true arch with its uniform curve, Egypt's version laid the groundwork. You can trace its influence across the ancient world, from Mycenaean gateways to Mayan temples. Even medieval European castles borrowed the technique for their vaulted halls. The Egyptians didn't just build for their time, they handed the world a tool that would shape skylines for millennia. What's equally fascinating is how this innovation reflects their problem-solving mindset. Without advanced mathematics or metal supports, they relied on observation and trial. They understood weight distribution intuitively, crafting spaces that felt divine in their grandeur yet grounded in practicality. Today, when you walk beneath an arched doorway or admire a cathedral's ceiling, you're witnessing the echo of an idea born along the Nile. And as we marvel at this architectural legacy, our next discovery takes us from the solidity of stone to the brilliance of light, where mirrors and flames transformed a towering beacon into history's most famous guide for sailors. Now, let's turn our attention from towering stone structures to something far smaller yet equally revolutionary: the written word. The Egyptians didn't just build with bricks, they built with letters, and their hieroglyphs played a starring role in birthing the world's first alphabet. Enter the Proto-Sinaitic script, a bridge between picture-based writing and the alphabets we use today. Discovered in the Sinai Peninsula around 4,000 years ago, this script was a game-changer. Imagine Egyptian laborers and traders working in the turquoise mines there, far from home. They needed a simpler way to communicate than hieroglyphs with their hundreds of intricate symbols. So they took inspiration from those very hieroglyphs but stripped them down to the basics. Instead of a full picture representing a word, they assigned each symbol a single sound, like using the hieroglyph for house, which sounded like B, to just mean the letter B. This was the birth of the alphabet principle: one symbol, one sound. What makes Proto-Sinaitic so extraordinary is its family tree. From it sprouted the Phoenician alphabet, which spread across the Mediterranean. The Greeks adapted it, adding vowels, and the Romans later refined it into the Latin script that over 2 billion people use today. Even the Hebrew and Arabic alphabets trace their roots back to this system. Every time you type a text or read a book, you're using a descendant of that ingenious simplification dreamed up in the Sinai desert. But here's the twist: while hieroglyphs were sacred, often reserved for temples and tombs, Proto-Sinaitic was practical, scratched into rocks and tools by everyday people. It democratized writing, moving it from the realm of priests to merchants and miners. This shift mirrors how technology today becomes more accessible over time, transforming from elite tools to universal necessities. And as we marvel at this linguistic legacy, our final discovery awaits, one that sparks debate even now. Was an ancient Egyptian temple hiding a secret far ahead of its time? The answer lies in a carving that some believe depicts nothing less than electric light. Now, as we reach the final chapter of our journey through ancient Egyptian innovation, we encounter a mystery that blurs the line between myth and technology. Deep within the temple of Hathor at Dendera, a peculiar carving has sparked fierce debate among historians and conspiracy theorists alike. Some claim it depicts an ancient light bulb, proof of electricity in pharaonic Egypt. But let's shed some light on what's really going on here. The so-called Dendera Light shows a snake-like figure wriggling inside an elongated, teardrop-shaped object held aloft by a pillar. To modern eyes, it's tempting to see this as a filament inside a glass bulb, powered by some lost technology. Yet Egyptologists offer a far more grounded explanation. This scene likely represents a symbolic moment from Egyptian mythology, the birth of the sun god Ra from a lotus flower, with the serpent symbolizing divine energy. The bulb may actually be a stylized lotus bud, a common motif in temple art. What's fascinating is how this misinterpretation reveals our own biases. We project modern inventions onto the past, struggling to imagine that ancient cultures might express ideas differently. The temple's ceiling is covered in astronomical imagery, and this relief sits alongside depictions of the night sky. It's far more plausible that it's part of a celestial narrative than an electrical diagram. That said, the controversy itself teaches us something valuable. Even if the Dendera carving isn't a light bulb, the Egyptians did master artificial lighting in their own way. Their mirrored bronze lamps, polished to reflect torchlight, could illuminate tomb walls without soot stains, a clever solution that required deep understanding of optics. Perhaps the real Dendera Light isn't a technological marvel, but the enduring brilliance of Egyptian creativity, still sparking discussions centuries later. And with that, we've illuminated all 25 groundbreaking innovations from pyramid precision to proto-alphabets that prove ancient Egypt's genius was anything but a flash in the pan. Which of these technologies shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into history's greatest mysteries. The past is full of surprises, we're just getting started. Now, as we wrap up this incredible journey through ancient Egypt's technological wonders, let's take a moment to marvel at just how ahead of their time these innovations truly were. From the mind-bending precision of the Great Pyramid's construction to the surprisingly advanced medical knowledge preserved in the Edwin Smith Papyrus, the Egyptians didn't just build a civilization, they laid the groundwork for countless modern inventions. Think about it, their water clocks paved the way for timekeeping, their Shaduf revolutionized agriculture, and even their early prosthetics show a startling understanding of human anatomy. But here's what's truly astonishing: many of these breakthroughs weren't just practical. They were deeply tied to the Egyptians' worldview, blending science with spirituality in ways we're still unraveling today. Whether it's the celestial symbolism hidden in the Dendera reliefs or the mathematical genius behind their calendar, these weren't just tools. They were expressions of a culture that saw innovation as sacred. So, which of these 25 technologies left you the most awestruck? Was it the eerie sophistication of their surgical tools, or maybe the sheer ambition of moving colossal obelisks without modern machinery? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear which discovery sparked your curiosity. And if you're hungry for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. The past is packed with untold stories, and we're just getting started on uncovering them together. Until next time, keep exploring.